vibing options.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It is me, OC Steve. As you know, DJ Ruben is on location. He's doing his thing with the West Coast Swing competition, so he's in a lovely business center for this latest edition of West Coast Geeks. Thanks for checking. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Put comments in below. But the main topic we'll be talking about today, as Geek News is kind of there, is Antman Quantumania. Obviously, it has dropped in movie theaters as of yesterday. A lot of people had advanced screenings. There are mixed reviews with critics. Fans are enjoying it. We're going to give you our God honest truth. There might be a little spoilery here, there, so take it with a grain of salt. We will, So, Ruben, you had an opportunity to see it in theaters. Just kind of your brief synopsis, and then we'll kind of do an overview.
I thought, here's where it gets tricky with the MCU films. We, by default, just because we know they all interconnect, we view them as one long ass series instead of an individual movie. With this being a sequel of Ant-Man, the third one, it's like I thought visually was stunning. Some of the tropes that they used in the movie were kind of convoluted. There's opportunities. Like, did it entertain me? Yes, it did. Could it have been better? Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't Superman. The original Superman with Christopher Reeves. That's still the kind of the benchmark, is one of, considered by many people, one of the greatest movies of all time as a superhero film.
But Ben Affleck's Daredevil.
Okay, so it's better. It's better than Ben Affleck's Daredevil. So it's somewhere. It's okay. So I think we were going to talk about what we thought were positives of this film, things that were detractors, and give it an overall grade. So I think we were both in agreement that if you go to see this in theaters, and the reason you're gonna see it in theaters predominantly is Kang himself, Jonathan Majors. We saw him a little bit as He Who Remains, a Kang variant in Loki, but this is a different Kang altogether in the form of Kang the Conqueror. He was rejected by the Council of Kangs because he's a little too radical. He's a little crazy. He wants to dominate time and shape it in his image. The Council of Kangs kick his ass out, put him in the quantum realm, so he's out of time. And you can tell throughout the course of conversations, he plays the character a little bit aloof, to the point where, time is not linear for him. It is kind of circular. He exists out of time. So he's aloof when he talks to Scott. Obviously his main power set is using time to his full court advantage. But I think the fact that he plays this at such a different version of this character, just a little skewed over to the radical side, was the draw for me. I enjoyed a lot of his. What's your take?
I mean, the way he performed as this version of Kang was awesome, because it was completely 180 from how he portrayed He Who Remains. When this one, like you're right, it was absolutely more radical. He had a purpose, and it was like complete. The vision of the Kangs seems pretty much to be the same, but for him, he was just like taken up to the most extreme level.
Well, he just feels that it's too many cooks in the kitchen, and they're manipulating time, and they're every time they touch it, they're only making it worse, for that matter. So he figures that only one head chef should be running the show. So he wants to get rid of his variants, and he feels a little bit slighted in that Michelle Pfeiffer's character Janet got out, and he didn't. Obviously she was supposed to help him, but too little, too late. And so he wants to see, like I said, there's going to be intermittent spoilers. So he is seeking revenge also on our 616 MCU movie continuity as well. So it just seems like he's on a radical tirade the minute he can get out of the quantum realm, and he's going to do anything possible to get to that. That leads into the other positive that I was going to bring up too, is one of the more outstanding performances in this movie is Michelle Pfeiffer. We don't really get to see too much of her, but anytime she is on screen, it's worthwhile to see her as Janet, Van Dyne.
Man, the acting choices she made in a lot of these things, wow! Like the moment that they revealed the whole quantum realm plot line at the beginning, she was just like, "There's something like wrong," but she didn't want to share with it. You could tell that there's something.
She's been through some shit. Needless to say that she was there. She doesn't want to talk about it. She has a little PTSD from being in her time in the quantum realm, and the stuff that she saw or she had to do to be there in order to survive. You can tell that she is not a fan of it. and that Cassie, Scott's daughter, is messing with forces that she cannot comprehend, let alone opening a can of worms that they're not ready to handle with, that they get sucked in kind of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids style into the quantum realm. And then those are my two positives that I feel for the movie. If you're going to go for that, go for those reasons in mind. It's kind of like watching Masters of the Universe, the live action He-Man film back in the day. You don't necessarily watch it for He-Man. You watch it for Skeletor. And in this case, you're really watching it for Kang and Janet Van Dyne. The two detractors, though, that we both kind of talked about off screen, things that kind of knock it down from being great to kind of okay and average, at least in my mind, are Scott's daughter, Cassie. Let's be honest about that. I thought that it was a little bit whack. I understand that they had the blip and they jumped 5 years into the future, but it's kind of a disservice to the actress that played Scott's daughter for 2 films, all of a sudden going, creative has nothing for you in the form of like wrestling style, and inserting this actress into kind of this bratty teenager, radical, I'm going to take on the world and my dad's Antman, so I don't give a shit. Like, she doesn't have any repercussions for her actions because her dad has hit this like global celebrity level. So she's trying to be defiant and just be her own person. And then listening to the interviews that this actress has, she acts like she went to Juilliard, and it's like, you're just playing a bratty teenager. Slow it down a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. This was the worst recast since Len Jacob was Diesel.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I just was like, anytime she was in a scene, it was awkward. It was kind of weird. It just wasn't in really good service. It was
didn't give us anything to care about, though, with her. It was just like, here, I have teenage X. That's it.
Like, she didn't really have any motivation. Like, it was what she was trying to portray wasn't delivered and translated well. That she is reacting because her dad was gone for 5 years and how she had to live in a world without a good chunk of the population, let alone heroes, because of what Thanos did with the blip. So I wish they would have really presented that well, but it just didn't translate to the screen. I don't know if it was necessarily the actress, probably a good portion of it was, or the director, Peyton Reed himself, like cutting some stuff on the cutting room floor. But there was just no natural chemistry that was there between Paul Rudd and her on screen.
Oh, absolutely. That was the biggest thing with the first 2 Ant-Man movies was with Paul Rudd and the actress that played his daughter. The chemistry was always there.
Yeah, it just was very disingenuous. And the relationship, I wish, like, you get into some families, they get a divorce, you get a stepmom, like, there wasn't really too much conflict between Wasp and her. Where it would have been like, maybe she's trying to, there would have been some natural development for Hope to try to go to Cassie and kind of be this pseudo parent that she doesn't want because it's a little too late in life. Like, you're my dad's girlfriend, like, leave me the hell alone kind of thing. Just didn't translate into the movie. Another thing for me that was kind of a detractor was the over-the-top Robert Rodriguez level of special effects in this movie. Like, there's a nice happy medium between practical and special effects. They just decided to throw that out the window and get everybody attached to Spy Kids to make this movie. And that leads into my last detractor for the movie that is like, there's been memes going around left and right, everywhere in between. And it is the man, or I guess a man, a head, if you will, known as MODOK. So they brought back the guy who played Yellow Jacket in the original movie, and we all wondered what was going to happen to him because obviously, he got hit with a bunch of little shrink discs and got sent into the quantum realm, and they decided to pull a go for broke and decide to make him MODOK. Now, if you follow the comic book continuity of MODOK, he is a character that was genetically made by Advanced Idea Mechanics. He's a little bit robot. He's a little bit gene splicing inserted into a guy, put in a crock pot, and they made MODOK. They decided not to go that route. Decided Kang to use some maybe of his like crappy parts, slap them on little stubs and nubs, and make him MODOK. And he is the lieutenant to Kang in the movie, but he has a change of heart because Cassie essentially just calls him a dick. That's it. Wasn't like, you terrorized me as a child. You treated me poorly. That entire night is etched in the back of my head for continuity for the rest of my life. No, you're just a dick. And so that's what you're just being a dick. So that's enough. Him getting razzed by a teenage girl is enough to have a change of heart to attack Kang and help the heroes at the end. And it just didn't sit well with me. That's just one character. I get that we can It doesn't mean that we should when it comes to making MODOK. That's just one of those things, like leave it in animation, leave it as a comic book thing so the sweaties know, maybe allude to it. Like if you show AIM again and show them working on the harness and limbs and a floating head in a tank or some shit like they did in the sequel series of Star Wars, but we didn't need MODOK. So like I said, overall, the movie, is it horrible like critics are saying? I don't necessarily think so, but I don't think it's the greatest superhero cinematic event ever. I think it's right there. Like if you need an excuse to get out to the movie theater and just get out of the house, this is a fun popcorn movie. Mm-hmm. Is it integral to the MCU narrative? No, not really, because you can watch the 2 post-credit scenes and that sets up Loki season 2. And the other with the Council of Kangs sets up the Kang Dynasty, which is going to be the Avengers film in a couple years down the road. And more importantly, they also announced before the movie even dropped in theaters that this will be on Disney Plus by July 8th. So I don't think you really need to roll out. Like I said, you wanted to see it. It's visually a good, fun film. It's a superhero film, and it's good. I would probably give it like about a C. If I was to give it an official grade, it's okay, but you're not missing much.
I agree with that. So I mean, and this is Michelle Pfeiffer's best performance since Grease 2, so it was amazing on that aspect.
Wow, Grease 2, that's high marks. That is very high marks, Ruben. So that kind of is, I think we're both in agreement that it's okay. It's a C. You could live without seeing it in movie theaters. It doesn't really, if you have a really nice high-end TV, 4K, maybe 80-inch, and a badass sound system, just wait for it on Disney Plus.
Yeah. You'll be fine.
So that wraps up our review of Ant-Man and the Wasp. And as the new tradition of this year, we have the rant. Now, I will relay the rules of the rant. I do not know the topic that Ruben is going to present me at this point in time. So it's solely my opinion right off the cuff. Keep in mind that this might be a little bit mature. It might be a little racy. So bear with us. And if you have a tender heart, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. So with that in mind, Ruben, what is the topic that you present me this week?
All right. The topic for the rant this week is Liam Neeson in an interview said that there was too much Star Wars content and he will never be in another Star Wars project.
I'm in total agreement with Liam Neeson. I cannot deny that. I think that even Kevin Feige on the Marvel side said that there is an oversaturation of content. The fact that we've gone to a streaming medium, they feel the need just to dilute us with a bunch of content and not care about the quality that's happening right now. I think that he did Obi-Wan as that little Qui-Gon ghost at the tail end as a favor to Ewan McGregor. Otherwise, if Ewan was never involved in a Star Wars project, we would have never seen him as Qui-Gon Jinn ever the hell again. I think that they need to reel it back. I think they need to moderate how much content comes out in the course of a year between the Star Wars property at large. I think that that's also an agreement between live action, animation, and film. And the same can be said for Marvel. When you have Kevin Feige saying, yeah, maybe we're putting out too much stuff, and maybe all the stuff we're putting out is not received all that well. Because let's be honest, She-Hulk started out great, and I don't know what hell happened at the end. They just decided to know, hey, we're not getting a season 2, so we're going to go for broke and insult everybody that's ever done anything related to Marvel. I think with The Mandalorian, if you give that enough breathing room, it'll stand on its own. I think the way how they've balanced it now, at least in this year with the Bad Batch and wrapping up Andor, like you need to give time for people to digest this. I get you're putting out weekly content for an 8-episode series, but that doesn't necessarily mean that people have the time to watch it when it drops. And then the next thing's coming out, and then you feel like you've fallen behind. You have fear of missing out, and you're trying to connect the larger narrative at large. If you put only maybe 3 or 4 things out for that matter, they will stand on their own legs and you will have time to retool them. I think what's worked great with everything leading up to the Infinity War and Endgame, aside from Captain Marvel, because that didn't really fit into the larger narrative, was that each movie was kind of a marathon. You were handing the baton on to the next stage and in opening a larger world and showing how all of this interweaves and how much of a big bad Thanos was. Now, I think that with the Star Wars side of things, you need to do that. I think that if Mandalorian is the way that you're going to go and you're not foreseeably at any time, stick with that timeline. There's a lot of narrative that you can fill out. You can expand the universe, and that should be your focal point. Let's be honest. Book of Boba Fett was Mandalorian season 2.5. That's the only reason you watched it, was to see how he got the ship and how he got the Grogu back. So I think they need to stick with what they need to do. When Dave Filoni touches a Star Wars property, it is quality, without a shadow of a doubt in my mind. Anytime Kathleen Kennedy starts to meddle with stuff, that's how we get more things than we need. You know, and I'm not looking forward to her Dark Apprentice show set so far back in the High Republic era, which is an era for most part Star Wars fans didn't ask for. If you're asking for an ancient era of Star Wars, you're typically asking for the era of the Knights of the Old Republic and predominantly Darth Revan. So yes, I believe there is oversaturation. I think that, you know, in the first quarter meeting that they had a couple weeks ago, they have suffered subscribers in Disney Plus. And I think that's the downside, is that you need to, in this digital media age, with everybody having a streaming platform, you need to vet what comes on your platform and have quality over quantity. I think that's why people are watching The Last of Us. It's a quality show. It's beautifully shot. The characters are great. They're taking little deviations and exploring different parts of the game and giving them more life. That's the kind of stuff we want to see. We want to see quality over quantity. Bring it back. Tone it back. Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, lock the door anytime Kathleen comes by and just give us what we want. I want Bad Batch. I want Mandalorian. You know what you're doing because you actually talked to George. You didn't go get his coffee and just be a glorified yes person. So that's my larger opinion about Star Wars and Disney Plus at large. I want quality over quantity. I want people in the writer's room that genuinely care about the source material that they're working on, not just collecting a check because it's a job. And they're worried about, hey, if I do okay at this will be the launching point for my original creation or property. Focus on the task at hand. Be in the moment. Appreciate that you get an opportunity, because, you know, a lot of other people would be, you know, clawing their way through the door that are genuine Star Wars fans to even have an opportunity to be in that writer's room and provide suggestions.
Absolutely.
So not expletive this time, kids. So that's the rant for now. We reviewed Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ruben gave me the rant. As always, we appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Is Kathleen Kennedy a hindrance or a curse? And how did you feel about Ant-Man and MODOK? You know, thumbs up for MODOK, thumbs down for MODOK. You can use your little stubs if you want. So as always, wherever you go, whatever you do in life, always take pride in the fact that you're a geek. Pop culture is here to stay. It's not going anywhere anytime too soon. Let your geek flag fly, and we'll catch you on the next video, guys.